Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. In this video, we will be doing a first look at the Men of Iron Tri-Pack. This is not a new release, but this is a game I've had for a while, and I do want to get it played, so I'm going to attempt to do so this month. And this, of course, is, as I said, the Tri-Pack, which includes the games Men of Iron, Infidel, and Blood and Roses. It is designed by Richard H. Berg and is published by GMT Games. So we're going to take a quick look. Now, most of you are probably somewhat familiar with this, if not very familiar with it. Depending on your tastes, it's knights and mounted knights and so on and so forth, right? So 3 games. Men of Iron covers the reemergence of infantry in the early 14th century, along with a more perceptive understanding of the value of combined arms warfare and the effective use of defensive terrain. Infidel focuses on the major battles of the early Crusades era between Christians and Muslims, and Blood and Roses focuses on the battles of the Wars of the Roses in England between 1455 and 1487. There have been a couple more expansions for this since this tri-pack was published, and I believe the first game came out back in 2005. That would be Men of Iron. Richard Berg, of course, has passed away, but his like I said, his series lives on, and there have been a couple of expansions, as I mentioned. Well, 3, I think. Arquebus is one, and then there's the name is escaping me right now, but it's on the Norman invasions of England, and then, of course, the most recent one is Purgatorio. All right, so we'll get to those later, but we're going to take a look at this one. So I'm going to break into the box and see what's inside. As you would expect, you get the rules manual right on top. Now, this is not all that thick. You can probably see right there. It says 28 pages is where the 28th page is where the extended sequence of play is. It's actually the back cover of the rule book. So this is the rules manual for the tri-pack itself, and then you have battle books for each of the games. You have Infidel here, which, as you can see, says the Supremacy of Cavalry. That's kind of the secondary subtitle for this one, 11th and 12th century. So, of course, cavalry was a big part of warfare in this era. You also have, of course, Men of Iron, which was the first game, and the rebirth of infantry. And then Blood of Roses, which is specific, of course, to the Wars of the Roses in England. Agincourt is also in here, I believe, but that was more of a single add-on. Then we have a whole bunch of counter sheets. So you can see here we've got counter sheet 8 is a half sheet, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 full sheets and a half sheet of counters. Then we have our maps. There are a bunch of these as well. There's also some player aids. I'm trying to separate those. So this is a map. This is a map. This is player aids. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's Agincourt, as I mentioned. But yeah, we'll take a look at all of these. I just kind of wanted to give you a quick rundown through the through what's in the box. We do get 2 D10s, and then, of course, all these player aids. So I will go through all of these, as you might expect, but I'm going to put them all in the box for the moment and set the box aside. And we'll look at the printed material first, and let's do them in order. So we'll start with Men of Iron when we get to the battle books. But before we do that, I always like to look at the rules themselves. So we'll do that right now. All right, so we have 16 named sections running through 23 pages, then the index and changes from the game's original editions. So our intro, right, it's a play-oriented series of games covering the wide spectrum of land battles from roughly the era just prior to the First Crusades to the arrival of gunpowder. This is a historical simulation game, not so much intended to show what happened, but why things occurred as they did. The purpose of the Men of Iron series is to provide gamers with accessible, fast-playing, fun games of low complexity. To that end, much detail has been either omitted or factored into overall mechanics. We have tried to provide as much period flavor and historical accuracy as we can within the stated focus. So what's in the box, right? We just kind of looked at that. We've got 522 and a half, 22 by 34 inch game maps, back printed, so two on each map sheet. One 11 and a half or 11 by 17 game map, 7.5 counter sheets, two identical 11 by 17 inch player aids for Men of Iron, same for Infidel, and a slightly larger one, 11 by 25.5 player aid cards for Blood and Roses, two 8.5 by 11 inch flight point tracks, one back printed, one rules manual, 3 battle books, one for each game, and two 10-sided dice. Then they have things in here that highlight by color which rules are specific to which game. A note on the passing of a legend. Richard Berg did not live to see this edition of the game published. It did come out in 2019. It has been that long, hard to believe since he passed away. But yeah, he had a pretty big impact on game design. I don't think that can be overstated. Anyway, here are the breakdown of components, right? You got your maps, your counters. So on our counters, you can see we've got leaders here and a combat unit. Then we've got, well, this is a pike, I believe. Then we've got the disordered side. So that's kind of somewhat standard for his games. You have like an ordered side, which is the normal state, and then a disordered side. Then the unit types, we've got cavalry, hobilars, light cavalry archers, medium cavalry archers, archers, heavy cavalry, knights, medium cavalry, mounted men-at-arms, and archers with flails. And all of this over here as well. Whole lot of stuff that explains the 7.5 counter sheets. Then we got markers for things like charges, retired, flight points, shield walls, netting, bombard, fired, seizure, shock, all kinds of stuff like that. No move, no fire, out of command, all kinds of stuff. And then standards, you've got your king here, Wallace, and Kotai. The dice, talks about the die. A 0 is a 0, not a 10 on our 10-sider. Definitions and abbreviations, we can kind of skip that, although they are useful. I just don't want to take up a lot of time reading them all. Most of them will be familiar to more veteran wargamers, I guess you could say. Unit types and military terms, right? So this explains what a genitor is, uniquely Spanish medieval light cavalry, much in the style of the Moorish horse the Spanish had been fighting for centuries. This is Men of Iron specifics, Infidel, and Blood and Roses. Scale, there's no time scale as there are no turns in the historical game sense. Most battles rarely lasted more than a couple of hours. Numerical strength is relative, not absolute. The number of men depends much on the depth and frontage. However, given that exact numbers for these battles are unknown, and sources vary often widely on just how many men were present, it is more accurate to consider the relative number of units as representative of the forces, not actual numbers. For Men of Iron, the map scale is approximately 110 yards per hex. Each combat unit represents about 250 men. Each bombard unit represents 1 or 2 guns in its crew. Infidel is slightly larger scale, 250 yards per hex. Pike units are 600 men, missile infantry about 300, and mounted units about 150. Blood and Roses is zoomed in. We've got a 50-yard hex scale. Each infantry levy, infantry, men-at-arms, and cavalry unit represents about 250 men. Almost all such troops were densely packed. Each longbow or archer unit represents about 250 men. Handgun units around 150 or fewer. Each artillery unit represents a handful of guns, their crews, and a few soldiers for defense. Victory, various victory things for eliminating your king, things like that. Sequence of play. So this is the core thing that I wanted to get in here. All the specific stuff I'm going to kind of skip over. I know a lot of people don't. Well, I shouldn't say a lot. Some people don't like the rules part of my first looks. Others like them. So I'm trying to find a kind of a balance here. Sequence of play, as was previously mentioned, there are no game turns. Game simply starts and keeps going until one player wins. To do this, the system uses a continuous activation mechanic, which is covered in section 6. So you get free activation phase. Choose a battle, army activation. standard, or pass. If standard was activated, go to phase D. B is move fire. Place any replacement leaders, play battle cry or unsteady troops, seizure counters, check command status. During army activation, activated units can only move. During battle activation, any or all units of the activated battle may move and or fire. If you're not familiar with battle as something other than a fight, it was a term for a portion of an army. Shock phase. During the battle activation, units in that battle can initiate shock combat. Actually, it's probably mentioned in the terms that Battle are the individual divisions of any army. Each battle is an individual command, usually with its own leader. Battles can be identified by the color stripe. On its counters, there's a design note as well. In an attempt to avoid the confusion that will inevitably occur, the word battle, beginning with a lowercase b, is used exclusively to refer to a scenario or historical battle. Any reference to battle begins with an uppercase B is covered by the definition of battle above, except when referencing the battle book. Right, makes sense. Rally phase follows shock phase. Right, shock phase has shock combat and charges. Then you have rallies. Then you have continuation. Excuse me. If the completed activation was a free activation, both players make a loss check. If the game does not end due to a loss check, pass, or choose continue with a battle or army activation. Now this cannot be the battle that just activated unless the active player only has one battle. Okay, so there are some rules here for this. Then you got who starts the game. Each battle, lowercase battle, in the battle book indicates which player goes first. Then you have leaders, types of leaders. We have overall commanders and battle leaders, which would be more like your divisional or wing commanders, depending on the era we're talking about. In this era, they were called battles. Okay, leader ratings. They've got activation ratings, which helps activating your battle via continuity. Then you've got effectiveness, charisma, command range, and then you have your out-of-command effects, leader casualties, and replacement leaders. Now, I kind of see, this is, if you think about Richard Berg's career, right, he made, obviously, Terrible Swift Sword, which kind of led to the Great Battles of the American Civil War series. He worked with Mark Herman on the Great Battles of History series. He did some ancient stuff on his own. Thunderbolt, I think. I'm not sure what that series is called, but he did that, and then he also did Men of Iron, among many other things. But you see a lot of things kind of in the same, like a lot of his stuff works in similar ways for obvious reasons, right? If you've devised a mechanic that works and you can translate that to a different time period, then you do it. Then we've got activation and continuity. Again, I'm just going to skim now. Movement rules. What is movement and what is not? Movement's an action that requires the expenditure of movement points. Actions that change a unit's position, like retreat, changing facing, etc., but do not require an expenditure of movement points, are not considered movement. For other game effects, such as reaction fire or charging, right? So reaction fire, or in a World War II game, might be called opportunity fire. If a unit's retreating, it doesn't trigger that, right? That makes sense. And the procedures, your restrictions, mounting and dismounting or remounting. Your facing rules. Facing is important, of course, right? These are units that, depending on which way they're facing, they are more or less susceptible to damage and more or less effective in terms of what they're doing. You've got there are no zones of control in this version of a game, which is a change from the original Men of Iron and Infidel. Say this up front and out loud so as to avoid the dozens of letters that ask where they are if we don't do so. That's some typical Bergian type stuff right there. Stacking rules, missile fire, which has all kinds of stuff when they can fire, how you resolve it, line of sight rules, the shock phase. This to me reminds me of Great Battles of History, right? Early warfare, you typically had, before gunpowder, you had lines of folk with various sharp weapons that would just kind of crash into each other. So that's shock. So all kinds of rules for shock. You got charging and countercharging. And your combat results, all kinds of countercharge rules here. Combat results, your CRT, disorder, what does that mean, etc. Right? In order, when it's disordered, you flip it to its disordered side. That has some effects here. Movement allowance is lower. The firing units subtract the number after the F in the yellow diamond. So here on there it says F -1. Shock attacks made by disordered units incur -2 DRM. Disordered units cannot charge or countercharge. They can't retreat before combat. A disordered hobilar or mounted men-at-arms cannot dismount. A disordered hobilar cannot remount, etc., etc. Retreat rules, retirement, right, which is kind of an orderly retreat, I guess. Eliminated, continued attack. Then you've got some optional rules here for battle flight and pursuit in Blood and Roses. Rallying, how does that work? Your standards. Standards are the rallying points for units. Any unit that is retired and is in or within 1 hex of its standard and not adjacent to an enemy unit when the standard is activated has its status changed from retired to disordered. So there's a way to recover it, basically, right? Special rules, timed engagement, shield wall, hobilars, knights, all color-coded for what games they apply to. Sudanese archers in Infidel, the Bedouin pike javelineers. You've got ambush and levy infantry in Blood and Roses. Optional rule on engaged. Here's our index. Here are the list of changes. Blood and Roses is simple. All known errata is included. There are some changes here. You see the Zocs are right up front and top, right after the all known errata is included. And then here's our extended sequence of play that we saw before. So for the battle books, we'll just quickly take a look here, right? You've got, basically these are where you're going to find your various scenarios. Falkirk, Stirlingshire, Scotland, 22nd July 1298. This was William Wallace, causing trouble. If you saw Braveheart, you saw a dramatized version, let's say. But then typical kind of scenario setup stuff. How long is the playing time? About an hour. Who deploys first? The Scots army does. Then it tells you who's in the Scots army and their different battles, I guess. Right? You've got James Stewart, you got Sir John Stewart, and you got William Wallace. And then we have a map that shows where everybody sets up. This is here's Edward, so that's the English side down here, and the Scots are up on this side. So Scots on the left, the English on the right. Here's the English army information. Durham's battle, Edward's battle, Surrey's battle, Shiltron and shield walls. The English don't have one. Timed engagement. It uses the timed engagement rule. Set the time marker in the 15 space on the general track. The English are the timed side. Activation, historical, and / solitaire play. Design note is there's very little for the Scots to do. Most of the units cannot move or attack. We have semi-abandoned the usual activation system. So you get special rules, right, for each one. Then you've got Courtrai, which was in 1302. I'm not going to go through all of these. Bannockburn, right? Again, the Scots and the English. So you get the idea, right? That's Men of Iron. And Infidel, of course, is crusade type stuff. Dorylaeum in northwest Anatolia in 1097. Got the Crusader army here listed. And their deployment. And you have the Seljuk army. Again, the map showing deployment areas as well as, I guess these are the areas in which they set up, which is kind of interesting. You got Antioch. Ascalon in southern Palestine. Haran. Yeah, so you get the picture. They have, does it have it on this one too? Yeah, so you have extended sequences of play, kind of specific to the game. They're fairly similar. I mean, if you look at it, the phases are named the same. They're very, very similar. And then we have Blood and Roses, which also has its own sequence of play. This one's the thickest of the three. First, St. Albans. This is also, of course, the latest in terms of when it occurred. These were in the 15th century. King Henry VI, Blore Heath. So you have your Lancastrian army and your Yorkist armies. Second St. Albans. Right, you get the picture. So you have all this stuff. Tons of stuff in here. So that's good. Now we'll take a look at the counter sheets. Okay, so this is this would be Men of Iron, I guess. And you can see you've got some kings on here, as well as other leaders. Then you've got your units, right? MM, DM, CB. All of these refer, of course, to different types of units. Pikes there. There are standards. You can see the standards there. And if we flip it over, you can see the disordered side of the units and how the D there indicates disordered. And you can see the F minus 1 there as well for the archers. So that's sheet 1. This is sheet 2. All nicely color-coded. Art is very nice. You can see the pikemen, the mounted units. Credit where credit is due. And the gentleman that worked on the counter art. That's quite a team right there. And some pretty accomplished gentlemen doing the art for this game. And you've got the disordered side. Right. Fairly standard stuff. So that's 2. Lots of units, as you would expect, right? You've got 3 games worth of unit counters in here. So all kinds of different units covering all kinds of different stuff, different battles. Right. Various colors. Got some light cavalry archers here, mounted. There's more archers, pikemen, etc. Of course, you've got various colors and types of units. This is the 4th one. This one looks to be from Infidel. We've got some of the Muslim forces here. Including the big guy, Saladin. Egypt, Bedouins, Seljuks. Some out of command markers. Here we have some more stuff, right? You've got some more kings. A lot of infantry, some artillery, more archers, right? All kinds of mounted guys. You got battle flights. So now we see Yorkist there. That, of course, would be from the Blood and Roses game, the War of the Roses. There's Henry VI. More Blood and Roses units here. Now, a lot of the units, of course, will be relatively same-ish in general. You know, there's some variation, of course, between eras and the armies themselves, compositions, and so on. Now, these are all markers mostly. There are some units on here, and some. Oh, you've got arquebus replacement counters. That was, of course, Volume 4 of the Men of Iron series, or is Volume 4 of the Men of Iron series. Caltrops, netting, Pavis, engaged markers, no move, no fire, retired, all kinds of markers that you will need to use out of command. All right. And then, of course, these, which are, again, a few extra counters. You got Henry V, Edward York, etc., right? Seizures, Stanleys, wagons, and then French forces. And that is the counters. Take a look at the player aid cards. So here's your weapon system matrix for shock and charge, where you have attackers across the top and defenders along the side. This again reminds me of Great Battles of History to some extent. Inside, you've got terrain charts for the various battles: Falkirk, Poitiers, Bannockburn, etc. Seizure counter explanation. On the back, you've got multiple tables: fire results, shock combat, charge, fire and range DRMs. DRMs for missile, countercharge versus charge, charge reluctance, countercharge versus shock fire. Right. So all of that stuff is there. That is from Men of Iron. This is the Infidel version. Same kind of thing. Fire results table, your weapon system matrix, fire range DRMs on the inside. Again, you've got terrain charts for the various battles, as you can see. And on the back, again, charge reluctance, all of the various charges, countercharges, all that stuff. Retreat before shock and charge, retreat before countercharge, leader casualties, DRMs, all kinds of things like that. Volume 2 of Men of Iron. There is a second copy. There's also a second copy that maybe it's further down, but there's 2 copies of everything. Here is the other Blood and Roses copy. Now, this is the bigger one. This is a tri-folder. So on the front, as was the case with the others, you've got your weapon system matrix for this game. Relatively simple, right? This was basically like a civil war inside England itself, so the forces were composed fairly similarly. Then you have your terrain charts for the various battles in here, including Bosworth. Then we have the fire results table, your fire range chart, artillery disorder, seizure counter explanation, pursuit stuff, and on the back, your charge and shock combat related things. All right. And we have our tracks here, flight point tracks for the first 2 games. Well, actually, this one is Men of Iron, just the first one, and it is single-sided. So you can see you've got tracks for various things, and you have notes for specific battles on here as well. Right. Then there's the general track that you can use for the timing rule. We have similar here for the second game, Volume 2, Infidel. Again, a general track. Again, a flight point track with various battles mentioned on it per side. Right? And then on the back, you have the Blood and Roses one, which again has timed the flight point track, right? Which means when did the army break and run, basically. All right, now the battles, lowercase. This first one actually has 2 battles on it. So this one is the Battle of Antioch on this side. So the top is right here. You can see it's pretty plain. A lot of the battles in old times were fought on big plains. There weren't a lot of terrain. Um, especially when we're talking about things that happened in the Middle East, whereas not a lot of forests and things like that. So you can see kind of the town is down here. Here's the walled city, and then you've got Crusader camp here, and there's a bridge, the bridge of boats, and then you have the entire open, the Orontes River, and you have the whole open area where the battle was fought. Then on the other side of that, we've got the Battle of Ascalon, and you have the Mediterranean at the top, and you have the walled city, of course, the Jaffa Gate, and you got the Fatimid camp, the plain of Ashdod, and Jaffa is that way, right? That's why you have a Jaffa Gate. So you can see kind of somewhat plain type things. You do get a key at the bottom down here that tells you what everything is. This here is rough terrain. There's a plateau. And then you have sand over here, and then this is just clear. All right, sand along this is the sand up here, along the Mediterranean shore. On the back side of that, we have two from Blood and Roses, I think. Yeah, Battle of St. Albans here. So you've got a ditch, right? And then we've got the town. This is Mill Church Abbey. So that's what this is here. St. Albans, as you would guess, right? River Ver. London is in this direction. And then here you have the, I could turn it, I guess, so you can maybe see a little bit better. Like that. And then you can get a slightly better look at it. This is the terrain effect. The terrain here is listed. Now this one is a little bit more interesting because you do have buildings and things in here. The ditch, you have different levels. Like this is level 1, so it's slightly raised. That would be level 0. Also have some hedges here as well. And then you've got the river along the outer edge. And here's the mill and church over here. And then your abbey is right here. There's a church over here and so on. So that is St. Albans. And then if we flip it over, this is the Battle of Towton. I guess it should probably be this way. Let me flatten it back out. Fold it if I don't have to. This is the Battle of Towton in Yorkshire, 29 March 1461. And again, you've got some woods now. Again, open area, massive open area. The road to London is right here. And got our compass rose, so north is actually that way. And the river Cockbeck down here. All right, so that is one of the 5 maps, double-sided. All right, here we have a slightly bigger one. This is the Battle of Arsuf, the Ayyubid Kingdom of Jerusalem, 7 September 1191. Now this time north is to the left. And this has some terrain on it. We've got marshes up here. This is a single map, takes up the whole thing. So of course you do have the river at the top there, which I don't see a name on it. But Forest of Arsuf here. Then you've got open area. We've got slight elevation over here. The Crusader exit hex has a little, it's down here in the corner, down here, which is the town of Arsuf. It's got a wall. So again, the scale of the Infidel game is larger, 250 yards per hex, I believe is what it was. So this is that map. Now we'll take a look at the other side. This is a two battle map on the other side. The Battle of Blore Heath in Staffordshire, 23rd September 1459. You've got a brook running through here, and fairly straightforward stuff. Hedgerows and a trench, some forest or woods, stream and brook, and Oh, these are wagons. Sorry, the hedgerows are here. Oops. And the town of Bloor is right here. So here's your map key, of course. If I flip it over, we have the Battle of Barnet. Outside of London, on April 14th, 1471, north is that direction in this case. We always have our compass rose here. Again, the maps are fairly simple, but they're very straightforward and easy to understand. You've got your various shading for the elevations. In this case, it's level 1 and level 2. Mostly clear. Monk and Hadley Church, they're the only kind of settled stuff on here. We got a lot of open fields, some hedgerows, some woods, some small streams, nothing major. This one is the Battle of Najera, Kingdom of Castile in Spain, on April 3rd, 1367. Got two rivers here. The Najaria, I think is how you pronounce that, and the Rio Yalde. North would be that direction, and then again, you've got some elevation here. A couple levels, actually. So we got 3 levels in this one. This would be level 1, level 2, and level 3 down here in the bottom. Route to Navarrete maybe, is here. And again, very, very basic. Here's Najera up at the top, right here. Again, most of these are open, open plains, just like in ancient times. If you played, Great Battles of Alexander or something, a lot of these battles, the maps aren't exactly real exciting because there aren't a lot of terrain features. They found big open areas and they fought, essentially. The Battle of Courtrai in Flanders on July 11th, 1302. And this one actually has its own terrain chart right on the map. Relatively small map, as you can see. Compressed area. Here's the city. It's got a river around it, as well as a castle here on an island. And then you've got an abbey up here. And you've got some brooks. And again, a lot of open area. Some marshy ground up here, it looks like. Yeah, this is marsh. And there's some marsh here. So a little bit damp. I mean, it's Flanders, so what do you expect, right? But that is the Battle of Courtrai. Relatively simple. Now we have the Battle of Dorylaeum in northwest Anatolia, July 1st, 1097. This is actually looking south. North is this way. We have some, what are these called? Drumlins up here, which I guess they look kind of like dunes or mounds or something. But again, massive open area. We do have a little bit of marsh here in the middle. And then you've got multiple levels of rough terrain. So you can kind of see over here, right? You've got all the way up from level 5 rough down. You got 5, 4, 3, 2 rough. And then this is all level 1. So as it went up, it became very rough in that area, as you can see. And that's kind of the same. So this is kind of maybe a valley surrounded by higher ground of a rough nature. So fairly clear map. Let's take a quick peek at the back. All right, so this one is pretty easy. We've got the Battle of Falkirk here with woods at the top. And of course, this was in Scotland, 22 July 1298. And I think we saw this in the battle book, but you've got rivers. I think, if I remember correctly, the English were down here and the Scots were up here. The compass rose tells us north is this direction. And again, you've got some marshy area. Bogs and pools are these areas here. Then the lighter areas around them are marshes. You've got clear terrain. And the burn, which I think is something akin to a stream. So that's Falkirk. And then on the other side, got Bannockburn from the same conflict. Scots and the English. English camp down here. So that's what it says right there. And yeah, the old Roman road through here, Dryfield. Kars of, Balquhiderac? Don't know. North in this case is straight up. It's the first one I think we've had like that. Here's Bannockburn Village, the new park over here, which is, of course, woods. And again, water and bogs. I mean, what's Scotland without some bogs, right? And marshes and water and all kinds of stuff. So interesting. This is an interesting battlefield with the various, you've got some different levels. It goes from level 1 all the way to level 4. And you've got potholes somewhere on here. Potholes. Yeah, right here, I guess. Potholes. And it's like they lifted it out of a modern city or something, right? Anyway, that's this map. And let's take a look now at the final map sheet, which of course will again be double-sided. This time we'll start with the Men of Iron side, right? This is the Battle of Tewkesbury in Gloucestershire, England, 4 May 1471. There is an ambush zone on this map. Where is it? I'm looking for it. I actually don't see it. It must be in here somewhere. Interesting. Okay, rivers. Why am I not seeing this ambush zone? Am I that blind? I mean, right here it says ambush zone. Right, you see that right there, ambush zone. I don't see it on the map though. I would assume it's along this road. I mean, that's a bridge, right? Oh well, anyway, somewhere on here is an ambush zone. When I have time to look at it in a little bit more depth, I might be able to actually find it. But yeah, so you got this long road of hedgerow and brush here, and there is a camp and a manor and a lot of level 1 and a little bit of level 2. All right, so that's that one. This one is the Battle of Bosworth, pretty famous one, in 1485. And you can see the various rivers running through here. There are, of course, some bogs and marshes, as we've come to be accustomed to. Got level 1 up here. So I guess this must be level 0, low-lying ground, right? We got Ambion Hill up here. This one is, again, a north being straight up one. Fairly straightforward. So that is this map. Let's see the other side. This one is the Battle of Montgisard, the Frankish Kingdom of Jerusalem, 25 November 1177. Pretty straightforward. The map key has basically 3 or 4 things on it. You've got a reinforcement area, which is at the top. You have the level 1 terrain, level 2 terrain, the stream, and that's about it. So very, very straightforward map. You got the stream as the only, and this little bit of a hill, and that's it. Everything else is flat and open. So that is actually not the last map, because we have Agincourt as well, which is kind of a smaller one. It is here, so we can zoom in on it and get a slightly better look, a little more up close. It does have its own terrain chart on it, as you can see right there. And if you're and this will give you an opportunity to see that it has movement for mounted and foot, shock charge DRM, and your missile fire DRM. Right? And so there's that. Here's our map key over here. Here's Agincourt itself, right? You've got some woods, of course. You've got some level 2 ground, level 1 ground as well. Pike hex sides here. And north, in this case, is that way. So that is the Agincourt map, which was added, I believe, as a specific add-on for this version of the game. It wasn't part of any of the first 3 games, but they tacked it on for the tri-pack. So that is the end of our look at Men of Iron. If you watched my channel preview for April, I mentioned there that there were 2 games that I wanted to get played this month. One of them was Combat Eastern Front. The other was this one, Men of Iron Tri-Pack, with these 3 games in it. I will probably choose one. You're welcome to suggest battles in the comment section if you wish to leave a comment. That is one of the things I will mention here right now. First of all, shout out to my channel members. Thank you for your support. As always, it is greatly appreciated. For everyone else, I want to thank you, of course, for watching, and ask that if you do have anything to say, suggestions, comments, questions, etc., put them in the comment section. I will do my best to get back to you as soon as I can. Other than that, if you would consider liking this video, sharing it, hyping it, or possibly even becoming a subscriber, that would all be great. If you are already a subscriber, thank you for your continued viewing of the channel's content. But we are done for now. So that's the end of this one. It was pretty long, but there is a lot in this box. So I hope I covered it well enough for anyone who may not have seen what's in this box before. But there's obviously other content on YouTube on this game. But regardless of that, thank you again for watching. We're done. I'm Joe. This is Hexed Encountered. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.